caminho, jogo insano. Lá tem samba até de manhã. Uma giga em cada andar. O meu lugar é cercado de luta e suor. Esperança no mundo melhor. E cerveja pra comemorar. O meu lugar tem seus mitos e seres de luz. É bem perto de Oswaldo Cruz, Cascadura, Baiano, Pirajá. O meu lugar. Welcome to your execution lab on Wednesday. I am Charles Clark, your real estate investment broker, here with another bright idea. Thank you guys for joining me again. We're just going to have a great week here. We're going to try to educate you on how to build a real estate investment business while sharing with you opportunities that you can work with our team to actually build your real estate investment business, right? So without further ado, let's start getting into it. So first off, I want to give a big shout out to Next Home My Way for allowing me for sponsoring us and allowing us to present this webinar in their social media lab in their headquarters on 5151 South Howell Avenue, across the street from the airport. Thank you so much for allowing me to do this every week and provide this amazing information to individuals out there that are wanting to build a real estate investment business. Also, just if you're new, if you're an agent that are trying to figure out where you feel safe or a place where you want to grow your business and build your brand, Next Home My Way is a great brokerage to come and do that. We have the resources and tools to build that brand out so that you can create the business that, you know, take care of your life and your family. Jose Carlos runs an excellent organization here along with Angel, who has an office here in Milwaukee and in Florida. So if you have clients that tend to want to fly south to Florida, we already have that connection. So again, big shout out to our sponsor, Next Home My Way, for allowing us to put this webinar on weekly. And again, my company, because I hold my broker license under Next Home My Way, just to give a shout out to what we're trying to do here. Obviously, my business is more focused on investors and helping them build their real estate investment business. So raise the standard. We go by 3 mottos, and that's raise the standard of living for our clients' family, ourselves, and our community that we serve. If we don't have that win-win-win situation, we don't want to be a part of that deal. Second one, be better by being better. Every day we try to improve our process, how we handle our customers, our clients, how we take care of the community, how we're involved. We're always trying to be better. And then our last one was, what's your legacy? What we try to tie our clients' decisions on what they're trying to leave behind, their legacy. One of the things that we're doing is we're trying to improve the cities and communities that we serve in. We're trying to make sure that they're better after our transactions are completed, and that we're putting good people in those communities, and so those communities thrive because we were involved in it. So again, raise the standard. Real estate. We don't help you buy a property. We help you build a business. It just so happens it's a property, right? That's one of our big mottos here, is that we are not just into helping you purchase property. We're in the business of helping you build a business. With that being said, let's get into it. So this week, I kind of wanted to approach this differently in the sense of having somewhat of a theme to go along with the webinar. We are always focusing on our systems that we want you to put in place that allows you to build this real estate investment business, right? One of the reasons I felt like there was a gap in the market, because me being a real estate broker, I realized a lot of the agents and brokers just focus on retail clients and making sure that they were helping people buy their homes. And I just felt like there was a gap in the market of assisting investors with building their real estate business. I felt like a lot of clients or a lot of agents and brokers they always would say, yeah, I got this investor that I'm working with, but and then they would go on, I'm trying to find a client, where I just felt like how you service someone who's trying to buy a home and someone who's trying to build a real estate investment business, those, even though they're having the same transaction, right? They're both of them are in the same transaction. They're buying a property. They have to fill out the same paperwork, things of that nature. But the strategy of how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and ultimately their goal of for an investor is to purchase another one. So how do they use this purchase to get the next purchase? Where when you're trying to buy a home, you're going to be in that home for the next 5, 7, 10 years. You're not really thinking, how is this property going to lead to the next property, right? But as an investor, that's exactly how you're thinking. And so in doing this and working with some people, I've realized that I've run into a lot of people with the imposter syndrome. And what I wanted to call this week is the backyard rep. And you're not an imposter, you were just early, right? And that's the theme of this week. That model right there that's what my whole movement is about, what we're trying to do here with RTS and with Aspire, and the investor mastermind group that I helped create with a bunch of other investors. The whole premise is, what's next? How we get you to do the next step? How do we get you to keep moving? How do we get you to keep growing? And most real estate content teaches you what to think, right? How you should think about this, how you should approach this. And one of the things that I feel like I bring to this is, with me being a licensed broker, I can actually help you through the process, especially in southeastern Wisconsin. Most investors, they try to train this, and then they have to leave you at a certain point, right? They leave you at the offer to purchase, or they leave you right there because they can't technically go through that process. Well, I can, and because I'm an investor, because I understand that, because I know what you're doing, and I'm a licensed broker, I can hold your hand up to that point of offer to purchase, and then I can keep holding your hand all the way through, and then I can hold your hand after the closing, so that we can help you get all those things up. So, for example, right now I just closed with a client, out-of-state investor in Chicago. He bought 2 properties on one lot, and now he's doing a BRRRR. He hasn't even stepped foot back since we closed. I've been handling a lot of that process. The team has been handling that process, getting contractors over there, helping set things up. So like getting the locks changed, getting quotes, getting people out there to give him estimates so that we can start that process. We also helped him partner up with a lender here so that he can get a hard money loan to get all these things going. So our whole bright idea is to give you the knowledge so that you can move. Right? It's just not about thinking; it's about making the next step. If you are, following, that I also run a lunch and learn on Tuesdays, where we walk through properties, we do a deal analysis, and so I try to, deal analysis for Aspire and our mastermind group, and I try to correlate those two together so that we're always constantly building off one another, and ensuring that you're getting not only just live deal analysis, but now you're getting the structure of how all that fit together. So tonight, what I want you to understand is, a lot of people feel like they're an imposter, right? They're just running numbers and they don't feel like they're being a real investor. And so they don't know how to pull the trigger to take that next step in their career. And I just want to help create the mindset that you're not an imposter, you're just putting in the reps, right? Before I sold properties, right, I had to understand the offer to purchase. I had to go through the offer to purchase a bunch of times before I actually had to sit down and actually write an offer to purchase with a investor. And so by the time that I actually wrote that first offer with that investor, I'd been through it multiple times myself as an investor, and because I had, my license and I practiced, I was going through it. So when that time arrived, I wasn't an imposter when I had to go through it because I felt comfortable. Even though that was my first time, it felt like my 50th time to them because of how many times I went through it, right? Was I an imposter? I don't know. I don't think so. I was practicing, I was getting ready. And for when my time comes for me to do that, that skill or that action, same thing here. So, and because of this theme, I wanted to bring in how some people feel like that in the process of analyzing deals is the exit strategy. Some people is like, how can I create an exit strategy when that's something that's supposed to be 6 months from now or 5 years from now? That feels like I'm being an imposter. Like like how can I do that? Well, focusing on the exit strategy forces you to picture yourself on the other side of something, right? And that's what the imposter syndrome is it's helping you see like what you're doing today. Yeah, maybe you're not on that other side, but it's helping you picture how you will be on that other side of that. And so I felt like this was a great way to bring those two ideas together so that you can see the full picture as that framework where you're not afraid, right? You're all this comes together and you're able to create a plan that you can keep moving forward with so that you can accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish. And you'll decide whether you're ready to stop practicing alone and start practicing inside a system, right? I think at the end of the day, most people are not moving forward because they don't have a system to say at this point you should be moving forward because of you've crossed this point and this is what is in the system, right? The whole point is you're trying to create funnels or triggers so that you know when the next step comes and that you're supposed to go to the next step. Kid in the backyard. So the whole point of this is imposter syndrome, right? Basketball player, kid in the backyard, ball in hand, dribbling, saying 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, shoot the ball, and he makes it, and this is for the championship, right? He's a kid and he's saying, I'm in the NBA, right? That's what we're all doing even now, right? The baseball player who's at the bat and he's practicing and he's saying he's finna hit a home run, right? Um, and then football, the game winning catch. All these things are kids doing this way before the actual thing happened, right? We've watched college football, we watch, the NFL, we watch basketball, college basketball, and everyone has that story where I used to practice and I pretended I was going to shoot the game winning shot and now they have this opportunity. That's the same thing with you with analyzing deals. You're analyzing deals, prepping yourself for that moment when you need to pull that trigger and you actually become the person that you've been envisioning, that you've been practicing being, right? That's the same thing here, right? They weren't imposters. They were just rehearsing. Same thing with you. You are just rehearsing on how a real estate investor is when they're analyzing deals, when they're building their real estate investment business, right? The one of the things that I realized was a lot of investors, especially when they buy in their first, second, or third property, they're still treating it like a hobby, right? Because they feel like they're imposters. And most people don't get the feeling that they're true investors, especially after their first investment property. They think they just bought another property and don't realize that they need to start treating this like a business, right? And then they act in a way where they're not actually acting like they're an investor. They're acting like someone who just bought a property. And some of these people carry this on for years because I feel like I run into a lot of investors who are hobbyists, or what I put two people in two buckets, is that you're either a real estate investor or you're an investor who invests in real estate. And sometimes the individual who's an investor who invests in real estate doesn't run their business like a business. I just think a lot of individuals um, have their emotions in play when it's a numbers game, right? It's a numbers decision. And so they struggle with understanding what the numbers are, right? They feel like this is what it's worth, right? And to me, in real estate investing, there doesn't really need to be what I think the number, like what I feel I believe the numbers are. It's, here are the numbers. Here's what's going on. Here's what you're going to get, and it's not what you think you're going to get. Is what is the market saying that we can get? I think when properties are on the market over 100 days, those are the best properties to go and negotiate with, but they also sometimes are the most difficult because that investor, quote unquote, person on the other side has an unrealistic market value for their property, because if it was true, it would already be sold, right? So I think a lot of times some people have the imposter syndrome when they shouldn't, and sometimes I totally understand why some of them do. But in this situation, what you're doing is just rehearsing before it's time to show up, right? The backyard rep always shows up later, right? You are 11 years old, right? 5 years later, you're in high school. 10 years later, you're in college. 20 years later, you're in a pro, right? These are all steps. Right now, you're in the backyard. You're just repping it out. You need to analyze. If you're not analyzing, you need to start analyzing. If you already been analyzing, now you need to move to actually going to the properties, right? And then if you're actually analyzing and going to the property, now it might be time to pull the trigger and actually put to use this knowledge that you have of analyzing the deals, and actually seeing the property and seeing, okay, I can take this on, right? You got to go into pros eventually, right? And going into pros is buying the properties, right? Buying your first one. You're a rookie in the pros, right? Now when you get to your third and fifth year, your sophomore year, and you're starting to become a pro. And then when you're in year five, when you got 5 to 10 properties, now you're a veteran because you're starting to put everything together. All this starts right now when you put in the reps in, right? You do the research, and part of what we're going to be showing later is the 90-day Aspire program, where these things, right? You can start putting these things into place today instead of waiting to after you close on a deal, right? Kid in the backyard calling shot. You running a deal through Aspire before you own one, right? That's just doing the reps, right? That's putting in the work. That's understanding what the market is calling. You seeing what the market is doing. You ran a duplex over here. You ran a duplex in this neighborhood. You ran a duplex in this zip code. You ran a duplex over here. Oh, now another property came up in that area. Now you ran that one, and now you're able to start comparing, right? You're starting to see what deals look like. Now you better understand it when something comes in the market, and you can see, okay, I think this is a deal based on the 3 other deals that I ran that were around this area. Um, you know, Kids saying he score out loud, right? You're calculating what your exit looks like before you close, right? Hey, this, I think, what a fix and flip. Well, if I buy this at this price and then I get it at this price, this is what it looks like, right? Or a burr. And then once you do those things, right? Practice and catch, no one watching, right? And that's actually putting a deal, right? You're actually submitting the deal so that other people are like, hey, what do you think? Right. Starting now, you making it real because now you're asking other people advice. And that's part of like why the Aspire Mastermind group is available, is that you have a community that you can actually present this to. And obviously I've created a Aspire Mastermind calculator that you can present your deals to, and it gives you a feedback. So right now we're making it real. Um, you right now, you're probably struggling with how to move forward and you still feel like an imposter and you're just running deals and you don't know this is a real thing or not. And I'm just telling you, you're not alone, and you're supposed to feel that way. Just know that putting in the reps doesn't make you an imposter. It just makes sure that you're getting ready, right? So what's the difference between that backyard kid? Now, not saying some backyard, playing in the backyard, parents might come out and help them, but a lot of them don't have systems in place, right? Some of them are just doing it on their own, right? They don't have a framework. Well, that's what we're offering here, right? That's what RTX Execution Lab is doing. That's what Aspire Mastermind 90-day program is doing. It's giving you a framework, right? Again, I don't what I do with a lot of my clients is do reverse engineering, right? One of the first meetings I have is I reverse engineer what their goals are. And then I try to end up somewhere where now we can do something tangible, right? So that's what Aspire does. Aspire just gives you the framework, right? That's what the RTS Execution Lab. We use the Aspire framework to give you a structure on how to analyze deals. A lot of people are like, well, how do I analyze deals? Well, that's what the Aspire framework is. It gives you a way to analyze deal. A score, right? A lot of people don't know like what is a good deal or not. Well, the Aspire framework gives you a score so that you know if this is a good deal or not based on how we score things, right? Um, Accountability, right? Sometimes you're in that backyard just shooting shots. You say you're going to do 20 shots. Well, having accountability, having partners, having people that say, hey, I am going to do these 20 things. Follow up with me tomorrow or follow up with me at the end of the week to make sure I do those. That's what the Aspire Mastermind Group is for. And that's what the RTS Execution Lab does as well. Coach, right? Having someone who's been there, done that, and can give you some pointers, right? That's what a lot of people are missing and they're nervous to do. And needing to put themselves in that new environment because most of the people around them don't want to do those things. Most of the people around them don't want to invest in real estate, or they do, but they don't want to take the steps to move forward, right? So now you have to put yourself around those individuals to help you get to that place. Having that community, right? Having other people that's doing it. We got multiple people in the Aspire Mastermind group, right? We have people who haven't had an investment that's looking for their first one. We have some people who just closed on their first investment, and then we have people who are seasoned who have multiple properties. They've done syndications, and and now they're in this group wanting to be around other members and help them understand and even help do deals with them as well. uh, we got people actually in the game, right? I'm in the game. I'm a licensed broker. I'm helping actual clients. I just closed on deals, right? Just put a property on the market today. So, having individuals actually in the game that give you pointers, to give you insight, to, let you know that you're close. Because if you're talking to someone who's actually in the game, right, they can give you some pointers on how to actually get in the game. So, surrounding yourself with those individuals just make it more tangible because it's real because you can actually touch someone who's actually doing it. Again, offering the 90-day Aspire Mastermind program. The cohort is starting June 6th. Again, this is coinciding with the RTS Execution Lab. The cohort is within that, right? What I do with the RTS Execution Lab is have you be a part of the 90-day program, right? So that's starting out. It's a great way to get you involved. It's a great way to framework and is a great way to say, hey, let's do this, right? I'm not trying to sell here like we can get you a deal in 7 days. I'm not one of those individuals. I try to be realistic. um, do I think I give you a framework that is easy so that you can follow, and if you do these steps you should be able to get a property? Absolutely. I think the six steps framework easily gives you a pathway to get a deal done. Now, if you don't have a job and all those things, you don't have down payment. Yeah, like this is not no money down. I'm not teaching that. I'm teaching you ways of, hey, if you find a good deal and you put it out there and you can find someone with the money, absolutely, we can help you put that deal together. Can that happen? Absolutely. Um, Wholesaling. Wholesalers are individuals that, find deals and connect other people so they can get the deal done and they get a piece of the pie, right? But this is for you to actually acquire an investment property. Right? This could be house hacking, right? I helped one of my clients do house hacking. He was able to get a conventional loan that was 5% instead of having to put 20% down, right? So he only had to put 5% down. Well, he also ended up getting a down payment grant, which then he didn't have to come to the closing table with any money. So technically he had no money down because he got a grant and he got some other subsidies with the bank that he borrowed from. So those are opportunities out there. But I basically put him through this, right? And it's, steps basically, right? It was going to the lender and taking them through the process, running deals, running analysis, and putting all those things together so that eventually at the end, he was able to close on a property. This is what this 90-day program does. Again, I would say there's three outcomes. If you are unable to get a loan or you don't have the down payment, by the end of the 90 days, you will have a business plan. So when those two things do happen, you are able to execute right away. The second one is you're going through the process. You've been pre-approved. You have the down payment. By 90 days, you'll have an accepted offer. And now it's just a matter of getting an accepted offer and then handling everything else by the end of the class and everything else. The third outcome is you were already pre-approved. You already had your stuff done, and now we got you accepted offer because you kind of knew your framework. You were moving, you were speeding, you're getting ahead of the curve. You already got accepted offer, and you actually close. And now part of the program is just teaching you what happens after you close. Right? Again, the difference between someone buying a property is that they're moving in there and they're living in that unit, and life goes on from living in the unit. Well, when you are an investor in your house hacking, not only are you moving in a unit, but you're collecting rent from someone else. You're responsible for someone else's living condition. There's certain things you need to have in place so that you are making sure that you are taking care of that, but you also want to make sure you're in position so that in, 12 to 18 months, you can refinance, get out of that deal and go get the next one, right? And this is what this program does. So now how this all ties in together, right? Aspire E. So part of Aspire, and I'll quickly kind of go through it. A is for address, right? That's the asset. What are we doing here? Like, what are we buying? What are, the property I'm looking at is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. What can we do with this, right? That's kind of A, right? Then S is seller situation, right? What is the seller? Like the seller saying, I want this price. Well, okay. Well, why do you want this price? Why are you selling? What are those things? It's important to know those things because you are able to negotiate based off their situation, right? You might can get something a little bit cheaper because they want to close right away. Or maybe they need to stay in the home longer, and because of the situation you're able to do is like you're able to let them stay there, 60 days after closing. Those are important things to know when you are trying to negotiate. Then price, right? Well, I just kind of said their asking price and what you assume, right? Those are probably going to be two entirely different things. As I was talking yesterday, some investors who I think sometimes are incompetent, they will price their property at because they know the value of that area has went up. They know they haven't raised rents, but it could have been raised. So they want to sell the property as if they raise rent. That no, right? Because you didn't do those things, and just because you could have, but you didn't, you should be able to take advantage of that because the next investor will. Well, you didn't do the things that you needed to do. So like that price is wrong because now I have to buy it. I have to put those things in there. I have to fix those things up, and then I have to find new tenants that will pay that rent. You can't take that equity that I already have, right? You're trying to take it because you didn't do the work. And I feel like a lot of investors or people I say invest in real estate, right? Investors who invest in real estate who are not as professional as real estate investors, they tend to do this. Now I comes in and I play, right? I the improvement of the property that I need to do to it to improve it to the point where I can raise the rents, and then the value is more, so I can pull that money back out and go get the next deal, right? I say is the most important part of the deal, because the value add is the only way you can force appreciate um, the property, right? And that's how you turn something that will take you 12, 18, 24 months to recoup that. You can force appreciate that in 6 months if you do it correctly, right? And then R is revenue. So if it's raising the rents, right, that's part of my cash flow. Or if it's a fix and flip, my profit from the sale, right? Those are the things. And then E is that exit, right? Kind of go back, right? Reverse engineering, right? We're at the front and we're saying, hey, I want to buy this because I want to fix and flip. Well, now by going through all that information, by E, now it either confirms that, yes, this is perfect for a fix and flip, or, hey, we might need to do a BRRRR. For example, this happened with me with one of my clients. I brought him a deal because I had other customers who wanted to back out of this deal, and I felt like it was such a great deal that you shouldn't pass up on it. Brought it to him. Um, when I brought it to him, I was like, hey, I think this is a good fix and flip deal. However, here's the BRRRR numbers if things switch and we need to go that route. Well, that's what ended up happening. The market shifted a little bit, made him feel a little bit uncomfortable. So instead of putting it on the market and selling, he wanted to maintain it. Um, and he wanted to rent it out and then refinance it, left some equity in there, but able to pull out majority of his money to recoup a lot of the money he initially invested, so that he could present this um, to the lender so he can pull the money out. And that's what he did. And he ended up getting 20% cash on cash return with the new rent and with the money that he put into the deal, right? So having an understanding the exit, but you could say that was an imposter syndrome, right? Because I didn't know the outcome. I gave him 2 outcomes that I thought could happen. And that's part of the reasons why, because I've analyzed a lot of deals. I was analyzing what's going on. I was trying to picture how this outcome will look, how this scenario will look within 2-3 months from when we started, right? So it was 4 months later when this happened. So I gave him these 2 options because I thought those were the likely 2 outcomes that would happen 4 months later. Well, one of them was actually the case, right? So was that imposter syndrome, or was that me because this is what I do? This is what I was able to come up with. This is the solutions I had for them. So again, be careful with when you say something is imposter syndrome, when you're just doing what you're supposed to do of, you know, seeing the future, right? And that's imposter syndrome, right? So part of what Aspire, and like I kind of tell you, like, so the framework that we have um, to help you, stress test, and all these are the 5 exits, right? So when you are looking at a deal, these are the 5 exits that we look for, right? So flip, the minimum of the margin has to be 12 to 15%. If I don't have a minimum of 12 to 15%, then I'm gonna look at it, right? So you kill it at 8%. So right, anything that's 8% or lower, you just kill it. So what that's saying is, if something is 9 to 10 or 11, is there something I can do to raise that up? But an instant 8 is just saying it's so low that it's a funnel that we should just keep moving forward, right? Because sometimes you just can't look at every deal. Sometimes you can't look deeper into a deal and see if it's possible, right? You have to eventually say, I need to just put things through a funnel, and if it doesn't work, just keep moving forward. So, because as I tell everyone, every property can be a deal. It's just what's the strategy and who's looking at it, right? And so this is the same thing. So if you're looking at flips, hey, these ones are 8%. Now, who says you can't still track them? But you're just like, hey, right now, based on these numbers, it's 8% and lower. I just got to move on. BRRRR, same thing, right? DSCR loans, because so for example, if you're doing a BRRRR and you're using hard money, you're going to need a DSCR loan to get out of that deal. So if I'm running a BRRRR, all my numbers have to come to a point where, can I get a DSCR loan at the end of this? And typically you need a 1.15, right? So anything lower than that, you just say, I'm killing it because it's going to take too much to try to bring it up. Buy and hold, same thing. Cash on cash return. Anything that's greater than 8%, we look at. But then what kills it is the break even. So if break even is below, break even is above the 1 point, then that's a deal that I don't want to consider because it was going to take me too much to break even. So buy and hold, I'm willing to take a little bit less. I would say buy and holds when you're just buying it to hold it and you're not really doing anything. These are your blue chip type properties. I almost say they're kind of like your bond. Placement is because you're putting your money somewhere to get a higher return. It's not as going to be as much as a flip, a burr, or wholesaling because I'm just kind of want to sustaining the money that I have and that I'm putting in the investment. Wholesaling, obviously, you need a margin, right? Because you need to get it from them. You need to sell it to the other person who still has a deal, and then you want to get paid from it, right? Most of the times, if you can get that, but you don't have a buyer, you kill that deal right at that point because that's the whole premise of being a wholesaler, right? You have buyers in place that you can give the deal to. And then creative financing. Um, it really depends on what that seller is willing to do, right? If they're willing to work with you, then you have to consider it. Obviously, this is if they don't have any equity, or I mean, sorry, if they have equity, they don't have a mortgage. Um, Creative financing is immediate play, right? But if you don't have that information, then it's going to be hard to calculate that. So this is a deal. Like I kind of just use this deal every week just to kind of break it down to simplify it, right? Someone purchases at 85,000. The rehab cost is 35. They're all in 120. Their ARV is 160. 75% of 160 is 120. Well, you just got all your money back, right? Um, so if I did a hard money loan, I borrowed 85,000. I borrowed 35,000 on top of that to be all in 120. Or, I put the 35,000 in, just borrowed the money for 85,000. So now I got my 35,000 back, right? So now I have this $160,000 property. I get a loan against it now to wipe out all the money I owed initially. So now that other person is paid off in full. Now I got this $160,000 property. Obviously, I pulled, debt on this other thing somewhere else. So I still owe someone money. But now whatever I did is wiped off. But now I got equity of 40,000, right? I only put 120 in. I wiped that out. Now those individuals are paid off. So like, for example, if I had the 35,000, now I got the 35,000 back in my pocket and I got a $160,000 asset, which then I got 40,000 in equity. So technically, I could say I got $75,000, right? 40,000 in equity in the property and 35,000 back in my pocket to go do the next deal, right? And then on top of that, if this is something I'm holding, and let's just say I'm getting rent, we just roughly had it up 450. So think about it. I borrowed 120,000. 6 months later, I wiped that out. Brand new loan. Now I have something with $40,000 worth of equity, and I'm getting $450 in cash. It's not too many investments that you can do that in, right? And that's what, again, this is building a real estate investment business. If brokers and agents are not talking to you like that, then you're just buying a property and you don't have any concept. You're setting yourself up for failure, right? Because you need to do this from jump, right? You need to do this before you're closing because you want to know the strategy of how you're moving forward, how you're building your business, and how you're getting the next one. Exit is hard, right? And this is just like goal setting, right? It's hard to be shooting in the backyard saying I'm hitting the game winning shot to win the NBA championship and wake up the next day and you're in middle school, right? Or you're in high school and you're still right. So it's hard to see that when you're in that current situation, right? Pretending you're an investor, right? You're running numbers, you're just analyzing deals, you're in You're in your house, in your office, just running numbers. You're at job on your lunch break, running numbers. It doesn't seem like you're an investor, right? But that's what an investor does. All right. It's practicing the outcome, right? You're practicing that I'm gonna run numbers on a deal. I'm gonna come across a good deal. I'm gonna take the next steps to actually get it, right? I'm running the numbers to say if I own this, I'm gonna be collecting $450 a month, right? That is saying that I'm building this out, that I know this is the result that's going to happen because I've been running this enough to actually make sure that this is the deal, right? Um, Saying that I'm actually going to collect this, right? A lot of my clients, I tell them, hey, we're investing for your lifestyle, right? So if you want the new car, let's get the duplex. Well, that's saying, hey, let's plan to buy this duplex that's going to bring in, let's say, with 250, 500, let's say the one with 450, right? And now you want this new car. Well, the new car is, let's say, 600. Well, now you got $450 that's paying for part of the new car now, right? So let's make this real so that you can have the lifestyle that you're wanting, right? So that's the whole premise of this. Like these are things that are real, that can really happen, that you can really put in place, and that you can really do it because other people have done it, right? Um, it is scary also, like, can I do a fix and flip, right? I have 6 months to do this, and actually writing the number down and saying this is where I need to be, and these are the things I need to do to make sure I meet that goal, right? That train that takes training, that takes reps, that takes holding yourself accountable, that takes doing it day in, day out, right? I analyze deals every day, even if I'm not really ready to buy. But I always say I'm in a situation where I'm always ready to buy. I'm always ready to get a deal done. Right. The right deal is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the perfect deal. I'm looking for the right deal for me. And that situation can come up at any time. You might close on a deal and the right deal might come the next day. And if you run the deal correctly and you structure correctly, there's no reason why you can't get that deal too while you have the other one. Again, just want to remind you guys, right? Joining an Inspire Mastermind group. This is part of what helps build investors, is putting you around other investors and getting, putting yourself in a situation where um, you don't feel like an imposter because you have other people who are trying to do the same thing. And then you might find those individuals that are willing to help you bring you along. And that's the whole point of this group. Yes, it started $29 a month. The first one is free, so you can come to our meeting. We hold it second Wednesday of every month. That one is free, but anyone after that, it's $29. But every Tuesday again, like I hold a lunch and learn to run a deal analysis. But an hour before that, we do live deal analysis within school, right? So those are things you can sign up for, submit real offers. We can actually go through them, and then you can get more comfortable, right? Because that's the other part of being imposter syndrome, is that you're shooting all these shots and no one's there and no one's watching. You don't have a crowd. So like when the crowd is there, do you shoot differently? Do you act differently? Um, do you have support? Do you have someone throwing you the ball back so you can make more shots, right? And that's part of what Aspire Mastermind Group is to provide that environment and that structure and that accountability and that community to hold you accountable so that you don't have to keep feeling like an imposter and actually become the investor that you've been dreaming and aspiring to become. The backyard becomes your finals, right? Like, yeah, you have, it's just your backyard. You're half court right now. You're on a full court in real life, right? But that becomes your real life, right? The backyard rep. You stop freezing when a real deal shows up, right? Because you've been doing the reps. Now all of a sudden you actually been pre-approved. You actually have the down payment, and this deal actually makes sense for you. Right now, you don't say, "What am I going to do?" Well, you have the system in place. Now you say, "Oh, this is the next step." Right? If the deal makes sense on paper, the next step is to schedule a showing. Right? But if you don't have those things in place, you're going to be like, "Oh, these numbers make sense," and then you're stuck. Like you want to avoid that. You don't want to become stuck when you're in this situation. You don't want to sit there when you just analyze this deal and this is working for you, right? And it makes sense. It meets your numbers. It's time to move forward, right? I think sometimes people get so caught up with so many different numbers that we just break it down. Okay, this is your number. If it meets this number, you have to go see it. Um, Practice game rep, right? For example, this happened with me with a client. We broke down what their number was supposed to be. I brought them a property and they were like, no, I don't want to go over there. I don't like that area. I politely, as their broker, said, no, we have to go see this because you're not personally trying to buy this and live in that house. You might feel some type of way about that. But this property meets your criteria and you're buying this for an investment so that you can live the life that you're wanting to live. So you have to go see it. Now afterwards, if it doesn't meet and things don't work out and then you want to walk away, fair enough. But you have to go see it because I gotta break that mindset that, oh, this was our strategy. This is the system. We have to pay attention to the system because if we deny the system, then we're going to deny it in other areas and then we're never going to move forward. The system says if a property meets these criteria, the next step is to go see it. If I would allow them to say, yep, that met the system, but I'm going to disregard it because of where it is, then that's going to allow them to disregard other areas of the system. So it was, nope, this property met this number, therefore we schedule showing, then we need to move forward. And then we reassess after we have the showing. And then we, again, right? This is not about feelings. This is about numbers. The coach rep, right? We do this. I do this every day. This is my life, right? I put myself in the other bucket. I'm a real estate investor. This is what I do. This is why I partner with the investor who invests in his real estate because they need to find people like me because I'm always doing it. This is what I want to do. This is my calling. This is my purpose. This is why I'm on this webinar is because I know that this is what I'm supposed to do is help educate, help train, help others build their real estate portfolio as I'm building mine. But, because I'm a broker and because I have this knowledge, I want to share with people. And I feel like I can guide them in the right way of building their real estate investment business. We need to partner up, right? And so that's where the coaching comes in. That's where the, being held responsible. The team rep, like again, Aspire. I'm trying to, the whole goal of what I'm doing here is creating an ecosystem, right? Once you get involved and incorporated into this ecosystem, you have other investors that are doing this that you can lean on. You have contractors that you can call to solve problems so that you don't feel like you're just sitting there wondering how to fix this issue. We have property managers that you can reach out to. We have lenders that you can reach out to, right? We have a title company that you can talk to. We have all these individuals that you need to run a real estate investment business, right? And having that team that you can rely on, right? I say this is kind of like tennis or track and field. You might have your individual sport, but you still have a team surrounding you. You still have coaches. You have other teammates that you can rely on, even though you're a triple jumper and they're a javelin. You can still have camaraderie because you're all coming to practice together and to practice your skills, right? And the finals rep, right? We help you write offers. Again, because I'm a broker, I can help you do that, right? It's just not talk. Like we can actually submit a real live offer because I'm a broker. And again, not to, poo-poo investors and things that who try to provide these things. They have to leave you at that certain point, right? They have to leave you and offer so that you have to go find another agent. And sometimes those other agents don't understand what you're trying to accomplish and, might not understand why you're trying to offer 20% less and might feel some type of way. Where I understand you're trying to do a fix and flip and you're not trying to lowball, you're just trying to actually implement a strategy that works for you. Hopefully it works for them and that everyone can have a win-win situation. Um, and that's where I feel like the finals where we can actually submit and work towards getting an accepted offer and not just be in fantasy land. just because you hit the game winning shot, you know, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, even though you're getting better at that shot, you still feel like an imposter, right? Because you're doing it in the backyard, you're not doing an actual game. Um, this is where being part of RTS, we can actually turn your reps into real life sessions, right? We're we're analyzing this deal. This deal could be your next deal. Not we're just analyzing deals, right? I think working with us, things get real, right? Coming to the Aspire Mastermind meetup, you are seeing other people doing it. So things are getting real. You're not just in your room analyzing deals to yourself and then you walk out of the room and you act like that just didn't happen, right? Because no one else is around you asking you those questions, diving deeper into that deal. Like, why did that deal didn't work? Why haven't you wrote an offer, right? Being around those individuals that challenge you and hold you accountable makes the biggest difference in the world. And that's part of the reason why I did create the Aspire Mastermind group, is because I wanted to hold myself accountable. A huge reason why I'm putting all this together is because I'm holding my own self accountable. It is helping me run my business even better because I'm trying to educate other people on how to run their business, that it's forcing me to better understand my business and run it much better. So I am so grateful to even feel myself as an imposter as I am doing this, right? I feel like a huge imposter sometimes, but it's me continuously doing these reps. I feel an imposter doing these webinars. I just started, doing these just a few weeks back. Now I'm on I think I've been doing almost 2 to 3 a month um, for the past 4 months now. And so, like, part of me was feeling an imposter doing that, but now I'm getting more confident, more comfortable, and like they're looking different. Uh, and I'm able to do different stuff with it now. So we all feel imposter syndromes in different areas. It's just how many reps are you putting in, and who are you putting yourself around, and how are you getting better? How are you analyzing yourself so that you can improve? All these different things comes with putting yourself around the right people. Again, cohort starting June 6th, right? Spots are limited. This is just for the Aspire 90-day program, which is built into the RTS Execution Lab. Again, stop pretending, start building, right? This is a game changer. We got 12 spots, um, 90 days from June 6th. You should, again, either have a business plan on how to move forward just because you were not pre-approved, or you don't have the down payment yet. We haven't found that. Or you have been pre-approved and you do have the down payment. And now we're going to have an accepted offer. Or you already have an accepted offer and now we're just waiting for you to close, and so that we can help you beyond that. I'm guaranteeing you this 90-day program will help you in all three of those situations. You will start putting things into perspective. You will start putting things into real life act. You analyzing deals, something that meets your criteria, something that is a rock that you can build on, are things that we move forward and we say, hey, it's time to schedule a showing. Then if that deal meets your criteria, the next thing is have to schedule a showing. And if you don't, then you just really need to reassess if this is something you really want to do, right? Because if you're pre-approved, you have the down payment, and this property meets your criteria, there's no reason for why you're not scheduling that showing. And this 90-day program is stop pretending, stop preparing, and start building. And part of this, right, I want to build you like, so, the Aspire community, investment community, the 500, we put you into that program, right? We will, part of the execution lab, you're getting all this all rolled in one, right? The weekly live coaching, which is $2,400 in value, right? The one-on-one capital strategy. For example, my client, again, initially wanted to, this recent client was going to get a DSCR loan, was going to have to put 15% down, roughly going to have to put around $60,000. Well, as we started talking more, we had more strategy sessions, realized that he was going to fix up the property. Well, then we changed strategy. I was like, we need to do a hard money loan. Right? There's no reason for you to get DSCR loan and then use your own money to invest back into this property. Let's get a hard money loan. Now you only have to put 4 points, but then you have the monthly payments, right? So it's either 40,000 or we do 4 points, which it was roughly around 11,000, but then now he has to pay 1,900 roughly a month, right? Something like that. So let's just say 2,000. So 2,000 for 4 more months. Let's just round that off and say 10,000 plus the 11. Well, he's at 21,000. Well, he was going to put 40,000, right? That's capital strategy, right? That's, again, understanding these things will dramatically either reduce what you need to bring to the table. What I shared with you about my client before, capital strategy. He was originally going to do an FHA loan. Well, because he was doing an FHA loan, he wasn't eligible for a down payment grant. Switching him to a 5% conventional loan made him eligible for this $10,000 grant. Well, now he has to able to get 10,000 grant. Well, that was a strategy call with our lender, right? So these are things that a lot of people don't take in consideration, don't realize that this is all part of business. This is all part of what you need to do to become an investor. And this has nothing to do with just buying the property, right? Buying the property and going through that process, going through the contract, that's separate from the strategy call. Investor community, right? Having yourself around these people. Aspire deal training. We actually take you through the Aspire framework so you know how to analyze. You know what data you need to go get so that you can accurately analyze the deal and know what you need to do, right? So understanding that, putting the reps in, practicing that so that when we can do live deal reviews, hey, like, let's do this right in front of each other and let's run these numbers. Let's put the time in. Let's actually do that, right? Now you're actually getting someone who can give you actually, good feedback on the deals that you're trying to put together. And then scale architect plan, right? I actually sit down with you and say, hey, this is how we get to the next one, right? Like client, right? We are buying the property. We need a BERT. We need to add a certain amount so that he can pull money back out and go get the next deal, right? How are we doing that, right? I share on this one before of had a customer reach out to me, had a consultation. They, was like, I'm struggling. I want to scale and I feel stuck. And, as talking with them, was like, well, have you bought something really? And that's why you feel like you're stuck. He was like, yeah, I just bought something. It's cash flowing, it's bringing in money. And so my next question was like, well, why can't you pull that money out of that deal? Well, I can't yet. That was the wrong deal, right? So if he sat down with me beforehand, we probably would have passed up on the deal, or we would have structured that deal differently so that he can improve the value of that property more than what he did, right? He probably got a DSCR loan when we probably should have did a hard money loan, got a rehab budget loan as well, and then fix that property up, raise the rents, but then also force appreciate the value of that property. He didn't do that. He just put enough money in there to be able to raise the rent so that he could get the DSCR loan. That's the wrong plan, right? So, like, again, I'm not here to help you buy a property. I'm here to help you buy a business. It just so happens to be a property. As you can see, that was $7,400 in total value of things that you're getting. $2,500 paid in full until you get the next property. You have everything structured. We break down everything. We help you walk through it. We help you build all these things up so that you can have the structure in place to build your real estate business, right? We also have a payment plan of 3 payments of $850. Again, this is how we get you in the game, right? Get you out of the backyard, into real life, into the pros. Yeah, it's your rookie season, but there's rookie of the year, right? There's people who are best of the best even when they're in their rookie year. And that's what we're trying to do with you. The right coaching, the right system, the right community, right team around you, you can go from 0 to 3. One of my clients went from 0 to 2 properties in 1 year, right? My goal is always to try to get you to 2 to 3 properties a year. And I know that's possible if we do it right. You got 2 choices. You can stay in the backyard alone, keep thinking that you're going to do it, and just keep practicing. Don't have a real system in place. You're just running numbers. You're just looking at stuff. and be in the same position next year. Or you can join and take your reps in real life practice, real games, scrimmage, real life systems, real life coaching, real life in the game, in the community, around other investors, and building up your system so that you can run your business accordingly. Stop calling shots in the empty backyard, guys. I am here to help you make your reps count, right? And some people might ask, like, well, Charles, what makes you qualified? Well, my background is in finance. I have my bachelor's degree from UW Milwaukee. I have a bachelor's in finance with a focus in international business. I have 2 minors. One is in economics. The other is in economic development. I have 2 certificates. One is international business when I studied abroad in Paris, France. And then I have another certificate in Latin Caribbean studies, which was a very cool program that was about international finance and teaching me Portuguese. So, eu falo português un pouco. So that's my background. Investor myself. Also have an associate degree in business management. So my whole world is around finance, business management, business building, and then me having my broker license, focusing on real estate. I just realized there was this gap for mom and pop investors, your mid-manager investors, your doctors, your CPAs, those individuals that make good money, know they need to invest in real estate, but don't know where to start, don't have the right team in place, don't love their job, but feel like they have to do this full time or do it part time and give up their weekends. And those are our ideal clients, right? Those are clients that we need to educate you enough so that the system can run in the background, and then you can poke your head in to make sure everything's running smoothly, and you pay the people that needs to get paid so you can walk away with the money you need to walk away with. Join now, right? This is your opportunity to go from sitting on a sideline or sitting in the backyard just taking shots that, yes, you're putting in the reps, but it's time to get in the game. Thank you again. If you have any, you can always drop questions below. You can email me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Obviously, this is on the YouTube channel as well. Please reach out. This is your opportunity to take that next step. Again, I want to thank Next Home My Way for allowing me to hold my webinar every Wednesday at 7 p.m. here in the social media lab, media room that we have here at our headquarters at Next Home My Way. Thank you again, Carlos, Jose, and Angel, for allowing me to do that. And if you're a real estate agent that is looking for a brokerage that supports your growth, your brand, Next Home My Way is a great home for you. It is a great brokerage that has the resources and has the tools to make sure that you shine more than the brokerage itself. Again, they're allowing me to hold my webinars here, do podcasts in our room, to do videos, all those good things. And so I'm so grateful for them to allow me to hang my broker license up here and run my Raise the Standard business through them. So Jose, Carlos, Angel, thank you so much. Thank you again for joining me. Again, shout out to my cousin, recently passed away, her sister. Just want to give a big shout out. Felicia, love you. Yes, thank you again for joining us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Second Wednesday of every month. I realize I just can't do it because I have the Aspire Mastermind group, and I've been trying to do both. But my goal is eventually to have a podcast after our meeting with some of our guests. So hopefully I can be able to pull that off very soon here. Thank you again for joining me. I am Charles Anthony, your real estate investment broker, here with another bright idea. Beleza.